Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a video on how to win with the new Charizard Theme Deck. How to win with the new Charizard Theme Deck in the Theme Deck format. This deck came out alongside the new set Vivid Voltage. The title is just Charizard Theme Deck, which is different from the older Charizard theme deck called Relentless Flame. I've already done a video about Relentless Flame, how it is a very powerful deck with a lot of options. However, most of the internal strength of the deck comes from Rapidash with that coin flip attack agility. It does 60 damage and then you flip a coin. If heads, it can't take damage next turn. In a format that has very little gust, apart from maybe the Fion in the Kyogre theme deck, that coin flip ability can really just wreck the entire format and is the main strength that Charizard deck has, seeing as it can stall so that it can build up Nidoqueens and Charizards on the bench to then eventually overwhelm anything. However, this new Charizard deck seems to be quite different and almost more consistent and reliable, dare I say, in a lot of ways. So to start off, you have Charizard, which Charizard itself is a draw engine. Once per turn, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one of them in your hand, and discard the rest. This attack, Royal Blaze, for only 2 energy, does 50 more damage for each Leon in your discard pile, in addition to 100. So if you draw a Leon off of Battle Sense, you can just discard it to do more damage with that Royal Blaze. Unfortunately, the deck does only play 2 copies of Leon. However, it is a theme deck. You can't expect it to have max copies of things for consistency. There's only 2 Charizards in here too, but that's theme deck format. If you are a new player, I highly recommend theme deck format for getting tradable booster packs for free. You can go up here into events and enter the theme events there. That is one of the best ways to just grind for those tradable booster packs without actually having to pay any real world money in order to get these cards. But in addition to the Charizard just being like a stellar attacker with like pretty high HP too, 170 is nothing to scoff at. The water weakness is a little annoying considering a lot of the other strong theme decks are like the Dreadnought deck that just came out and the Kyogre theme deck, but it's interesting that water decks become popular simply because of Charizard, just because of the strength that Charizard has on our meta, both the old deck and also with this new deck. This one, there's not a lot of coin flip cards or randomness cards. There is Dan, which is a little bit of randomness. You're going to draw 2 cards, and then depending on how skilled you are at rock, paper, scissors, you can draw 2 more. So that's kind of what you have in the way of consistency. You have 2 research. I love that the new theme decks are including 2 copies of research because it's just that like consistency that it needs. We got 4 hop. I mean, there's better supporters we could get a 4 of, but it's nothing to complain about. You're always happy to see hop when you're playing in theme deck format. 18 fire energies to make sure that you always have that. Your other attackers, you got Magcargo, which is doing 180 and discarding 2 energy. So it does take multiple turns to set this up, and then once it is set up, it will be another turn before you're able to attack with it again. But 180 is huge for the theme deck meta. The one kind of thing that is very hard for this to hit through. Keep in mind you're hitting Rillaboom, which had 190, which was previously kind of the untouchable high HP of the theme deck meta. That's gone because it's like weak to fire anyway. But the threat for this, I would say, is Samurott in the new Dreadnought theme deck, which I just did a video about. So check that out. I kind of do think in a lot of ways Dreadnought is like the perfect counter to Magcargo, not just because of weakness. Not Magcargo, the perfect counter to this Charizard deck, not just because of weakness, but because the only thing that can actually knock out a Magcargo is a Charizard that has like the right number of Leons or has played a Leon that turn. So I think if they have Magcargo, and if you have Magcargo and they're sitting up there with a Samurott, you're kind of in trouble, and Samurott is kind of fulfilling its purpose. But it's interesting that we're getting up to this new 180 number in the theme deck format. So this can knock through a lot, especially lots of old theme decks. You're KOing Dragonite with this. You are KOing a lot of different Pokemon with this. The biggest kind of downside to this deck is I think water weakness makes it so that this 130 is easy to deal with. This 170 is easy to deal with. The biggest thing you're going to have to watch out for is both the Kyogre deck and the Dreadnought deck hitting this for weakness. What is interesting is we do have a Yanmega in this, which having a grass type is interesting. Not that a lot of water types are actually weak to grass. A lot of the the standout water types that are able to counter Charizard are weak to lightning, which is why I think maybe even the Thunder Raikou theme deck could be a good choice if you're trying to counter water specifically. But U-Turn does 50 and then does a switch, which is I think interesting for a 130 Pokemon, so that you can just send up something to sacrifice like a Sudowoodo or something, or if you have a Magcargo that you know is going to tank something, it can get out of the way. But 130 for Cutting Wind is not bad either. The main cool thing about Yanmega is free retreat, so that after one of your Pokemon is knocked out, you can just go up with the Yanmega, retreat back to choose kind of the optimal attacker depending on what your top deck is. You have a Lugia in here, which isn't the most relevant. It does 120. I guess it's not the worst attacker in the world, but it's not amazing. And Sudowoodo lets you draw 2 cards. It's fine. I think it's pretty normal for like the theme deck meta. But other than that, there's not a whole lot in this deck that's especially impressive other than the Charizard itself. It is nice to have Beatty. Attaching an extra basic energy is very important, and you're definitely going to have that energy in your hand with the 18 copies of Fire Energy in this deck. So overall, I think this deck is pretty decent. I think it is more straightforward than the old Charizard deck. I think you will rely a lot more on your own skill, your own intuition, your own kind of game sense when you're playing this. Whereas with Charizard Relentless Flame, a lot of times you're going to send up Rapidash and you're going to attack with agility and you're going to pray for heads, and if you're lucky with coin flips, like, you can do really well. I like that there's a far less degree of randomness with this Charizard deck, and so in that sense, I hope that is more successful, but you'll probably be able to like cheese less wins than you would with the Relentless Flame deck, because each game you kind of do have to play to the best of your ability. So ultimately, I do think it is a pretty good choice for the theme deck format. That being said, I still think that the Kyogre deck in particular will still have the edge on it. The Dreadnought deck might have the edge on it, but with this 170 number, I don't really know how Dragonite really aims to combat Charizard. You kind of have to do some spread. If you're playing Dragonite, you have to do some spread damage with a Tornadus early, then knock out the Charizard with Dragonite, or you have to maybe send it back to the hand with Pidgeotto and just not even try to knock it out. But once this comes out, this can be a pretty sizable threat for Dragonite. So who knows, maybe Dragonite might not be as strong as it has been in the past. It definitely, with the 2 different Thunder attackers, doesn't worry as much about Dreadnought, but this could cause quite a bit of problems for it, especially with 180 damage on Magcargo. So I think it's a pretty good theme deck. If you're aiming to get free tradable packs as a new player, this is definitely a deck that's worth picking up depending on your playstyle. Definitely check this out. Check out the other Relentless Flame Charizard deck, because who knows, that might be more your vibe. Sending up a Rapidash and just getting those coin flips to the point where like your setup is like beyond belief and you're so far ahead. Or you might want to play the Dragonite type thing where you have different attackers of lots of different types to counter a bigger variety of stuff. But yeah, it's up to you. Ultimately, I think these theme decks are really good, especially the two new ones compared to the previous Galarian Darmanitan and Galarian Surfetch ones. I don't think those ones are as good, but I do think that this theme deck is worth your time, at least somewhat, as well as potentially could be a building block to a standard deck. If you buy 2 copies of this, you already have 4 Research, you have 4 Leon, you have 4 of this Charizard, and you can maybe start turning this into some kind of competitive standard deck, 1 prize attacker thing that counters about everything in standard meta except for ADP. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like and comment. It helps the channel out. Let me know what else I should make a video about too, and I have a ton of other theme deck videos like this where I just talk about the big strengths of each of the different theme decks, so be sure to check those out as well.
Feel the sun, smell the air with the wind in my